Today on the What If Brigade, I want to make a response video to Matt Easton of Scholar Gladiatoria on why you don't want to grab the blade of a katana. And he brought up some excellent points in that video. And, in response, I would like to talk a little bit about swords I would like to grab and what they have in common and why I wouldn't want to grab a katana. The sword I would most like to grab would be a rapier. It is long, it is not very sharp, and it is one-handed. This is great from the principles of not getting my hand cut and also having a great deal of leverage. My second favorite sword to grab would be a long sword. A long sword is long. Also, it can be sharp, but it doesn't have to be. Some are sharper than others. That one is two-handed. It usually works better when the wielder grabs the blade, but it can be done. I'd put, Kriegsmesser in the same category. Again, those ones are going to be a lot sharper, but they do have a back side that typically is not sharpened. And then a sword I would like to grab much less would be a Langmesser or a hanger like this Wakefield hanger. And I wouldn't want to grab this sword because ideally it would be very sharp, and it would be because it's shorter, it's closer to my opponent and farther away from me. A rapier and a longsword can get very extended, very far out from the body, close to me, but maybe far from my opponent, making them more ideal to grab. This is going to be a lot closer to me, and it is one-handed, so there are grabs that this can be done, but this particular blade is, probably a little bit longer than a katana blade would have been in period. And the katanas that I have, I'm sorry, are probably about 10 centimeters too long. But the reason I wouldn't want to grab them is that they're supposed to be pretty short, much shorter than a rapier or a longsword in any case. And they're supposed to be very sharp. And they're also two-handed. And this creates a number of problems for me, the person trying to grab a hold of the blade, in that the blade is going to be much closer to the wielder. It's very difficult for this to get extended out away from the body where they can't keep track of it. And then, but the big thing that I wanted to bring up is leverage. This is a two-handed sword that's quite short and quite sharp. And ordinarily, if I grab the end of a rapier or the end of a hanger, it's one hand against their one hand. With a katana, it's my one hand, unless I grab it with two hands, against their two hands. And that can work. We see that work in longsword treatises. But the key about the longsword is, again, that they are less sharp and they are more long. And that does two things. One, if I do need to get two hands on a longsword, that's doable. And the other thing is that the longer something is, the longer a lever is, the better a lever it's going to be. And the shorter a lever is, the worse a lever it's going to be. But that isn't the worst part. The worst part is that because the katana is two-handed and has a long handle, there's space for like 3 of my hands on here, the wielder already has an excellent lever. I'm not going to have good control of this blade. And because it is very sharp, the control that I do have is very dangerous. So if they are using their two hands and they're moving this sword around, I could end up in deep trouble real quick. Uh, and it's so, can you grab a katana? Of course you can. Of course you can. It's because of the shorter length and because of the sharpness of the blade and because it is two-handed with a light, long hand with nice leverage, this would be the type of sword that I would least want to grab the blade because it doesn't offer me, the person who's grabbing, any real advantages. I don't have a nice long lever to push. I can't grip it really easily because it's quite sharp. And I can't just use my one hand and know that, okay, they've only got one hand on the other end, like a rapier or a hanger. They're going to have two hands, or they can easily add a second hand, quite simply, and that's going to cause problems in terms of my grabbing attacks. So this is my theory. It's not definite by any means. But what about you? What is your theory as to why the katana has fewer grabbing responses in its manuals and martial arts and those kinds of things? Let me know down in the comments below, and have a great day.